Could Alexander Isak's time at Newcastle already be heading toward an unexpected twist? Despite being one of the Premier League's most exciting strikers, a surprising FIFA rule might just open the door for a shocking exit, one that Newcastle fans never saw coming. Football is not only about goals and trophies, it's also about contracts, regulations, and the fine print that can change a player's career overnight. Recently, FIFA's transfer regulations have come under the spotlight again, with legal experts pointing out clauses that allow players to challenge their contractual obligations under certain circumstances. These rules, rarely invoked but extremely powerful, could provide a pathway for someone like Isak to walk away from his current deal without the traditional transfer fee negotiations. For Newcastle, who invested heavily to bring the Swedish striker from Real Sociedad, the very idea that a loophole could threaten their project is both alarming and fascinating. For Isak, it could mean freedom, the chance to explore opportunities at some of Europe's biggest clubs if he decides the time is right. So what exactly is this so-called freedom clause? How does FIFA's regulation work, and could it truly allow Isak to leave Newcastle without the club having full control? Today, we're diving deep into the story that could reshape the future of one of Europe's hottest forwards. Before you start, remember to like the video, subscribe, and activate the bell so you will not miss anything. Before we can understand why Alexander Isak's future is under such intense debate, we need to look back at the remarkable journey that brought him to this point. Born in Solna, Sweden, in 1999, Isak's story began at AIK, where his natural talent quickly set him apart. At just 16 years old, he was already scoring goals with the maturity of a seasoned striker, earning him comparisons to Zlatan Ibrahimovic and attracting scouts from all over Europe. In 2017, Borussia Dortmund took the leap, signing the teenager in hopes of grooming him into the next superstar. However, life in Germany wasn't easy. Limited playing time and the challenge of breaking into a star-studded squad meant his growth stalled. For many young talents, this might have been the end of the story, but for Isak, it was just the beginning. A loan spell in the Netherlands reignited his confidence, but it was the move to Real Sociedad in 2019 that truly transformed him. In Spain, Isak flourished. His pace, technical skill, and lethal finishing made him one of La Liga's most dangerous forwards. He scored stunning solo goals, led Sociedad to Copa del Rey glory, and proved he could thrive under pressure against the biggest clubs. That rise made him impossible to ignore. In 2022, Newcastle United, newly backed by ambitious ownership, made Isak their record signing. The Premier League was a new challenge, but his adaptation was seamless. Whether it was clever movement in the box, calm finishing under pressure, or his ability to link play with midfielders, Isak quickly showed he wasn't just another promising striker, he was already world-class. At 6 feet 4 inches, he combines height and strength with surprising agility and close control. He thrives on running behind defenders, finishing with both feet, and maintaining composure in one-on-one situations. Unlike many strikers who rely solely on physicality, Isak is versatile, able to drop deep, dribble, and create chances for teammates. That unique skill set is why he's considered one of Europe's elite forwards. Clubs across the continent see him not just as a goalscorer, but as a complete striker who could lead an attack for years to come. And now, with rumors swirling and FIFA's rules entering the conversation, the football world is watching closely to see where his journey leads next. When Alexander Isak signed for Newcastle United in the summer of 2022, it wasn't just another transfer, it was a statement. Newcastle had just begun their ambitious rebuild under new ownership, and bringing in the Swedish forward for a club record fee of around £63 million sent shockwaves through the Premier League. Expectations were sky-high. The question was, could Isak live up to the hype in one of the most demanding leagues in the world? It didn't take long for him to answer. On his debut against Liverpool at Anfield, Isak announced himself in spectacular fashion, scoring a brilliant goal that showcased his composure and sharp instincts. Despite facing injuries that disrupted his early months, he consistently proved his value whenever he stepped onto the pitch. By the end of his first full season, he had notched double-digit goals in the league, often scoring in crucial games that kept Newcastle's push for European football alive. Statistically, Isak stood out not just for his finishing, but for his efficiency. His conversion rate in front of goal rivaled the Premier League's best strikers, while his ability to drift wide, beat defenders, and create space added a new dimension to Newcastle's attack. Eddie Howe relied on him not only as a number 9 but also as a versatile forward who could adapt to different tactical setups. Beyond the numbers, Isak's presence gave Newcastle something they had lacked for years: a reliable, world-class striker capable of competing with the best. His partnership with players like Miguel Almiron and Callum Wilson brought balance to the attack, while his link-up play with midfielders like Bruno Guimaraes added fluidity to the team's build-up. For the fans, Isak quickly became a favorite. His calm demeanor off the pitch contrasted with his ruthless edge on it, and supporters admired his ability to rise to big occasions. Every goal, every clever run, every composed finish strengthened the belief that Newcastle had found the man to lead their project into the Champions League era. Under Eddie Howe, Isak has not only grown as a player but has become central to Newcastle's vision of challenging England's elite. And yet, as strong as his connection with the club has become, uncertainty now looms over his future, with FIFA's rules threatening to complicate what once seemed like the perfect partnership. Despite his success and growing influence at Newcastle, Alexander Isak's future is suddenly surrounded by uncertainty. On the surface, everything looks promising: a top striker leading a rising club. But beneath the headlines, cracks are beginning to appear, and they could shape the next chapter of his career. One of the biggest factors is financial pressure. Newcastle's rapid growth has come with massive spending, and the club is closely monitored under UEFA's financial fair play rules and the Premier League's profit and sustainability regulations. If Newcastle fails to qualify consistently for the Champions League, they may be forced to make tough choices. Selling a valuable asset like Isak could become a financial necessity rather than a sporting decision. Then there are the injury concerns. While Isak has been brilliant when fit, his time at Newcastle has been interrupted by recurring fitness issues. For a striker expected to lead the line week in and week out, this raises doubts about long-term reliability. Both the club and potential suitors are watching closely, weighing his incredible talent against the risk of losing him at key moments. On the tactical side, Eddie Howe has built a system that thrives on intensity and pressing. While Isak's versatility makes him a great fit, there are whispers about whether his individual style is fully maximized within Newcastle's setup. Some pundits suggest he could shine even brighter in a team that builds entirely around his movement and finishing, rather than sharing attacking responsibility. Meanwhile, rumors of interest from Europe's elite refuse to go away. Arsenal, PSG, and Barcelona have all been linked with Isak, drawn by his age, skill set, and availability under potential FIFA regulations. Each of those clubs offers not just money, but the chance to fight for major titles, something Newcastle can't guarantee just yet. And finally, there's the human side: possible dissatisfaction behind the scenes. Isak hasn't shown public signs of unhappiness, but every ambitious player wants assurances about competing at the highest level. If Newcastle can't consistently deliver Champions League football, it's natural he might consider alternatives. All these factors combine to create a cloud of doubt. Isak is central to Newcastle's project, but in football, circumstances can change quickly, and the possibility of him seeking a way out, especially through a FIFA loophole, feels more real than ever. To truly understand why Alexander Isak's situation is so fascinating, we need to take a step away from the pitch and dive into the legal side of football, specifically, FIFA's regulations on player contracts. While contracts are meant to bind players and clubs together for agreed periods, FIFA has long recognized that football is a unique industry and has introduced certain rules to protect players from being trapped indefinitely. The key here is something known as the unilateral termination clause, part of FIFA's regulations on the status and transfer of players. In simple terms, it gives players the right, under specific conditions, to terminate their contracts without needing the club's approval. This provision exists to balance power between clubs and players, ensuring that athletes aren't forced to stay in situations that may harm their careers. How does it work? FIFA regulations generally define what is called the protected period, usually the first 3 years of a contract for players under 28, or the first 2 years for those older. If a player seeks to break a contract within this protected period, the consequences can be severe: financial penalties, suspensions, and even restrictions on signing with other clubs. However, once that protected window expires, players gain much more freedom. They can argue for termination, citing sporting just cause or contractual issues, and FIFA can back their case. There are also precedents. Over the years, players have successfully invoked FIFA's rules to secure moves or free themselves from binding agreements. For example, cases involving disputes in South America and Eastern Europe have seen players walk away after appealing to FIFA, often because clubs failed to meet payment obligations or because the working environment was deemed unsuitable. While not common in the Premier League spotlight, these cases show the rules' power when leveraged correctly. So, how does this apply to Alexander Isak? His contract with Newcastle is long-term, and the club has invested heavily in him. Under normal circumstances, any departure would involve a massive transfer fee. But if the right conditions line up, whether related to the protected period ending, potential disputes over contract fulfillment, or arguments around sporting just cause, Isak and his representatives could appeal to FIFA, effectively bypassing Newcastle's control. That wouldn't automatically make him a free agent, but it could drastically reduce the leverage Newcastle holds in negotiations. For Isak, this means opportunity. If he decides the time is right to move on and another club is willing to support his case, FIFA's regulations could pave the way. For Newcastle, it means vulnerability. A player they see as untouchable might, under the right legal framework, have the option to walk away on terms far less favorable than a traditional blockbuster transfer. This is why the so-called freedom clause is generating such buzz. It's rare, complicated, and controversial, but if applied, it could reshape not only Isak's career but also Newcastle's entire project. When a striker of Alexander Isak's caliber becomes even remotely available, the biggest clubs in Europe take notice. And right now, several giants are already circling, monitoring his situation closely and preparing to pounce if the FIFA rule or Newcastle's financial situation gives them an opening. The most persistent rumors link Isak with Arsenal. Mikel Arteta's side has been searching for a clinical striker who can lead the line in big games. While Gabriel Jesus offers movement and pressing, he lacks the ruthless finishing touch Isak provides. Tactically, Isak would slot perfectly into Arsenal's possession-based system, stretching defenses with his runs while providing a reliable end product to complement Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. For the Gunners, Isak could be the missing piece in their title challenge puzzle. Then there's Barcelona. Financial struggles have limited their transfer activity, but Barca are always on the lookout for the next great striker. Isak's time in La Liga proved he can thrive in Spain, and his blend of technique, intelligence, and link-up play fits the club's philosophy. With Robert Lewandowski nearing the end of his peak years, Isak could be the long-term successor to lead Barcelona's attack if they can maneuver their finances well enough to afford him. Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, are another name frequently mentioned. After Kylian Mbappe's departure, the French champions are looking for a marquee forward who can deliver both goals and star power. Isak's height, pace, and versatility make him an intriguing option alongside talents like Ousmane Dembélé and Goncalo Ramos. And unlike Barca, PSG have the financial firepower to make such a move happen quickly and decisively. Other clubs lurking in the background include Chelsea, who continue their hunt for a consistent number 9, and Real Madrid, who always keep an eye on elite talents in case an opportunity arises. What makes Isak so attractive is not just his ability, but also his age. At 25, he is entering his prime years, old enough to have experience at the top level, but young enough to be a long-term solution. Combine that with the possibility of exploiting FIFA's rules to lower his cost, and you have a dream target for Europe's wealthiest clubs. If the dominoes fall in the right way, the next time we see Isak leading the line might not be in Newcastle black and white, but in the colors of one of Europe's most historic teams. When it comes to Alexander Isak's future, several possible transfer scenarios could unfold, each with its own timing, risks, and rewards. The first and most likely pathway is a summer transfer. The offseason always provides the ideal environment for blockbuster moves, as clubs have time to negotiate, restructure squads, and spend big. If Newcastle fall short of Champions League qualification, the pressure to balance the books could intensify, making a summer sale more realistic. Arsenal, PSG, or Barcelona could then swoop in with offers designed to test Newcastle's resolve. A winter window move is less common but not impossible. If Newcastle face financial strain mid-season, or if Isak pushes for a move due to dissatisfaction, an opportunity could open up in January. However, January deals are typically rushed and expensive, meaning interested clubs would need to pay a premium to get him out of St. James Park mid-campaign. Another factor is whether Isak has a release clause or buyout option in his contract. While Newcastle have never confirmed such a clause, Spanish reports suggest that his original Real Sociedad deal contained one. If a similar clause exists in his current contract, a wealthy suitor like PSG could simply pay the fee outright, leaving Newcastle powerless. Then there's the intriguing possibility of invoking the FIFA loophole. As explained earlier, the unilateral termination rule could reduce Newcastle's control over his future, allowing Isak to depart under more favorable conditions for the buying club. If that door opens, it could transform his transfer value from a 9-figure blockbuster into a much more affordable investment. We can't rule out creative solutions either. Swap deals, where Newcastle receive a striker or key player in return, could soften the blow of losing Isak. Loan deals with obligations to buy are another possibility, especially for clubs like Barcelona, who often prefer staggered payments due to financial constraints. What makes this situation so compelling is the uncertainty. Isak could remain Newcastle's talisman for years, or he could become the centerpiece of one of the most dramatic transfers of the decade. With multiple pathways available, from record-breaking bids to legal loopholes, his future has never been harder to predict. For Newcastle United, the thought of losing Alexander Isak is more than just the loss of a striker. It could fundamentally alter the trajectory of their ambitious project. Since the takeover, the club has set its sights on competing with the Premier League's elite, and Isak was meant to be the jewel of that vision. Losing him now would not only weaken their attack but also raise questions about their ability to hold on to world-class talent. From a footballing standpoint, replacing Isak would be incredibly difficult. Strikers of his caliber are rare, and even if Newcastle received a massive transfer fee, finding someone who can replicate his mix of finishing, pace, and intelligence would be a huge challenge. Players like Ivan Toney, Victor Osimhen, or even younger options such as Benjamin Sesko could be considered, but none would be guaranteed to match Isak's impact immediately. Financially, the sale of Isak could provide Newcastle with much-needed breathing room under financial fair play rules. The funds could be reinvested across multiple positions, strengthening depth in midfield or defense. But while that might stabilize the books, it risks weakening the squad in the short term, just when Newcastle are trying to cement themselves as regulars in Europe. The fan reaction would likely be intense. Supporters have embraced Isak as a symbol of the club's new era. His departure, especially if it felt forced through a loophole or without proper compensation, could spark frustration and distrust toward the management. For many, losing their star striker so soon into his Newcastle journey would feel like a step backward. As for the management, Eddie Howe and the board would face immense pressure to respond quickly and decisively. Howe has built a squad centered around balance and discipline, but losing his most dangerous forward would force a tactical rethink. The owners, meanwhile, would have to prove they can still attract top talent and keep the project moving forward. Ultimately, Isak's potential exit is not just about one player leaving, it's about the signal it sends. Can Newcastle truly compete with Europe's giants, or are they still vulnerable to losing their best players? The answer could define their next chapter. The uncertainty around Alexander Isak's future hasn't just caught the attention of fans, it's become a hot topic among pundits, journalists, and former players. And as with most transfer sagas, opinions are sharply divided. Some experts believe Newcastle will fight tooth and nail to keep him. Former striker Alan Shearer, a Newcastle legend, has often praised Isak's composure and movement, calling him the kind of forward Newcastle can build a team around for years. Journalists close to the club echo this sentiment, suggesting that Newcastle's project is designed precisely to attract and retain elite players, not to sell them at the first sign of interest. On the other side, there are those who argue that Isak's departure feels almost inevitable. European football analysts point out that clubs like Arsenal and PSG offer him an immediate shot at trophies, something Newcastle can't yet guarantee. One Spanish pundit noted that Isak has already proven himself in La Liga. It would be natural for a club like Barcelona to consider him a long-term solution up front. The financial muscle of these clubs, combined with FIFA's regulations, makes the prospect of a move very real. The media hype surrounding the situation has only amplified the uncertainty. Headlines often frame Isak's case as a looming transfer battle, with dramatic language suggesting he could walk away at any moment. However, more cautious voices remind fans that FIFA's rules are complex and rarely used in the Premier League context. For Isak to actually force a move through such channels would require very specific circumstances, and Newcastle's legal team would surely fight back. Ultimately, the expert community is split down the middle. The optimists say Isak is central to Newcastle's vision and will stay, while the skeptics believe that money, ambition, and opportunity could pull him away. What unites both sides is an acknowledgement of his extraordinary talent that ensures his name will remain in headlines until his future is fully resolved. As we've seen, Alexander Isak's journey has been remarkable. From his early days at AIK in Sweden to stints at Dortmund and Real Sociedad, and now as Newcastle United's leading striker, he has consistently shown that he belongs among Europe's elite forwards. His combination of technique, intelligence, and finishing ability has made him a key figure not only for his clubs but also for the Swedish national team. Yet, despite his on-field success, uncertainty now clouds his future. Financial pressures, tactical considerations, injuries, and interest from some of Europe's biggest clubs all contribute to a complex picture. On top of that, the FIFA rule we discussed, the so-called unilateral termination or freedom clause, introduces a legal pathway that could allow him to leave Newcastle under specific conditions. It's rare, powerful, and potentially career-defining. So what's the verdict? Will he stay or go? The truth is, both outcomes are plausible. Staying would allow Isak to continue building his legacy at a club committed to growth and European competition. Leaving could offer immediate opportunities to compete for major trophies at Arsenal, PSG, or Barcelona, while also testing himself against the very best in Europe. Either path carries risk and reward. For fans, the key is patience and perspective. Football careers are shaped by ambition, opportunity, and timing. What matters most is that Isak continues to play at a level worthy of his immense talent, whether in black and white at St. James Park or another iconic jersey elsewhere. Now we want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Isak should remain loyal to Newcastle, or is a move to a bigger stage the right choice? Drop your opinions in the comments below, let's get the debate going. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the latest transfer news, analysis, and expert insights. Alexander Isak's story is still being written, and one thing is certain, wherever he plays next, the football world will be watching closely.